that they had a place we could all see it. Something. Nothing going on. Next question.
Yeah, is Portland also going to go down with California, part of Portland?
Let me explain the Earth geophysics. First of all, I do know that the targets are Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego. Portland is not a target that I am aware of. However, this is for the nuclear. I know that. That's one of the Soviet. I have some Soviet Secret Service, FSB friends, and they were telling me what they've got lined up over here. They have these satchel nuclear bombs. They're going to take out all of the energy sources, the dams, and what have you. They're going to hit New York and New York and Washington D.C. with bombs. And what do you think happens to this country? It's almost instantaneously. You shut it down. No communication, no nothing. They want to get to the military sections and the whole works. That's what's scheduled. When is it going to occur? I'm telling you, just go read the report with Dr. Coleman had. And the Soviets are making the largest military exercises in history right now. Putin is sitting there with his information. He flew to Havana. Do you guys remember when he flew to Havana? How long ago has that been? 6 weeks? Why would the head of Russia go to Havana? You want to know? To get permission to land his nuclear carrying planes, which he got. Did you know if you're in Europe and you want to go to South America, the cheapest way to go? Via Havana. Did you know any one of you guys can go to Havana? No passport, no nothing. Just fly to Mexico City, hop on the plane and go on over there. It ain't what they tell you. A lot of Americans are going over there because they're recognizing that why, by the way, do you know why Cuba is the only communist country in the world that's embargoed 100%? Anybody know? I'll give you the answer. He orchestrated Kennedy's assassination. It was a mafia hit. Kennedy sent 2 teams in to take out Castro, if you remember. Kennedy was mafia. It's his dad. I mean, he got put into office because they rigged the vote in Chicago. This whole setup was a deal on there. Anyway, Castro was sitting there going to bed with the Russians, and they had nuclear, not that they didn't have nuclear stuff and everything else going on. So what happened is that Kennedy just said, hey, we'll just send a couple hit teams to go down there to take them out. Well, the hit teams, the CIA, I was in with the KGB, where the FSSB, CIA, and the Mafia about 4 months ago, and I got to watch, there's about 8 movies of this, by the way, 8 videos that were going on. And I got to watch the real thing. There was 9 shooters. Not one. Oswald didn't shoot the gun. The gun was 3 floors below, and he never had it. Another setup. He and Ferry were both over in Cuba as part of the program. Anyway, Castro set this thing into motion because the hitters that Kennedy set into motion to take him out. Again, they get the hitters from Marseille, or they get them from China, or they get them from South Africa. That's where the best hitmen that the CIA employs. I have a CIA guy that actually does kill people, and there's a general friend of mine in Albuquerque that killed 3 of the shooters that were involved in the Kennedy assassination. I was going to publish his book, but he made a deal so we keep him all alive and I don't print his book. There's a lot of information you can get. Anyway, so what was the retaliation to keep everything down? We have the Warren Commission forward just to keep the disinformation going. So the only thing our country could do, quarantine them. Because if everybody knew that Castro did what he did, you'd demand we would have started World War III. Obvious. That was the conclusion. But we didn't do it. He's still running his country. He's still set up in motion. And like I say, things are coming in the same thing. Same thing with Hussein. What's going on with Hussein? Hussein, who was our bosom buddy, remember? He was fighting the war we had against Iran. We gave him all of the money, all the weapons, everything else to go fight, including all of the biological materials and training to go after Iran. He had a problem with the Kuwaitians. The Kuwaitians were slant drilling, taking their oil rigs, drilling them under Iraqi territory. Kuwait was artificially severed from Iraq anyway during the turn of the century. It was just an arbitrary thing that the English did. Anyway, he got mad. He said, but he was our friend. So we asked our ambassador what he should do. It's public knowledge that April Gillespie, our ambassador, gave him permission. He says, it's an Arab problem, you take care of it. And so he rounded everybody up and immediately went on down, and we started the big fiasco going on. And guess what? There's a company that got started over in Bahrain that was into getting the oil concessions for all of that Middle East. And who was in charge of that? George Bush. Young George has got bankrupted so many companies you have no idea. Young George was the governor of Texas. You know what the governor of Texas has no power whatsoever? Has none. He's a figurehead. The fifth down, the secretary, is the one that does all the work. All he is a figurehead. They only meet every 2 years and only for 2 months. Did you know that? So I'm the governor. We meet every 2 years. Texas is running pretty good, except for it's controlled by the good old boys, right? And George Bush, being the head of the CIA, the old man, controlling all the drugs. I mean, I got all the documents in the world of that. And I'm sitting here looking at all the rest of it. Now, let's talk about more fun things. Let's go back to money.
Back up just a bit. 2 weeks before he was assassinated, Kennedy printed U.S. notes.
He did that too.
And I believe that that was why he was killed, because he was told if you print U.S. notes, you will surely die. That was the first thing that his, what's his name, did when he got on Air Force One, was cancel U.S. notes.
Kennedy decided to become a real, the question was, he thinks he was killed because of the U.S. notes. That's one of the, there was 3 things going on. The CIA was involved in it, and the Russian Cuban on the thing, and also the drugs. Remember, Robert started indicting the mafia. As the drugs were coming in from the Gulf, from Zapata Oil Corporation, which young George was the president of, whether you knew that or not. Zapata Oil Corporation has the offshore Gulf platforms. The drugs came in there on the supply ships, come in by the CIA, given to the mafia for distribution. When John became president, he got woke. Not that he wasn't a good guy, that, you know, he was in the same thing, but he got up there and decided to become a real president. He was implementing all these things. That was only one faction. There was 3 sets of group to kill him. The one that took him out, however, was Castro. Just so you know. It's a setup. Yeah, they didn't want the, well, it's like right now. You're getting the Federal Reserve that's getting nailed right out. They're gonna set it up in motion so you guys don't know what to do. They're telling you right in front of you, read today's paper. They're telling you that the Federal Reserve is going away. The connection, people don't see that there is no government connection to the Federal Reserve. It's not a government agency. It's a private bank that does a hoodwink to stall. I think I was on the radio yesterday. We talked about Ron Paul. Even worse than that, I talked to Henry Gonzalez, who was the chairman of the banking community. Along with Ron Paul, they all put in a note to get rid of the Federal Reserve. Did you know that? Henry Gonzalez and I were talking because we were running $50 million that Hillary Clinton got. Did you know about that? Hillary Clinton, the Rose Law Firm, represented, she was the attorney representing Bill Lassiter, the largest drug dealer in the world. Has $1.2 billion in Swiss accounts right now. He's dead. They don't know how to get to it. Hillary got $50 million. That $50 million was transferred to Continental Bank in Chicago. And the Continental Bank in Chicago went into bankruptcy. But a week before it went into bankruptcy, the $50 million was transferred to the BCCI, the Bank of Commerce and Industry in the Carolinas. A week before that went into bankruptcy, the money was transferred to Switzerland. Henry Gonzalez checked the money all the way up to the BCCI, and then he was approached by Henry Kissinger, the National Security Agency, shut it down. This is a national security problem. You're not to go any farther. That help? I'm trying to clear up some of the game.
What's Ron Paul's game in this?
Ron Paul is one of the lone people out here trying to tell you the truth. It shows you have to have the truth someplace. And that's about all there is. He's the last bastion over there, because about every one of them. I mean, I talked to a friend of mine also was the chief counsel for the impeachment of Nixon, and Hillary worked for him. We were discussing the balance of all these people. You know, everybody at the top. Let me tell you how they think. You ever get into a room where there's a room of black widows, scorpions, and rattlesnakes?
Not recently.
That's what they are. They all want the prize. But each one of them is capable of killing each other. And they will do it. And so you walk very carefully going to it, because when you no longer are wanted or needed, you're considered a what?
Consumable product.
expendable container, or as my son-in-law says, you're nothing more than a commodity. It's like if you're an engineer. Where are the cheapest engineers on this planet today that are well-trained, speak English? India. That's exactly right. That's where you get the Indian in. Okay. More questions? Yes, sir, in the back.
Since you brought up Hillary Clinton, is she electable? Was the Committee of 300 considered she up for election?
Well, you know, that's a question, because this last time around, the Committee of 300 was, Rockefellers were backing the Gore deal, and the Committee of 300 was putting in Bush, just to give you an idea. I don't think that she's electable at that point. There was too much other garbage coming out for what she's done in New York. I mean, she's basically backstabbed too many people up there. I'm supposed to be in New York in a few weeks doing a lecture with some of the...
You're still alive.
I'm no threat. I'm just sharing a bunch of information. Not only that, I have a lot of protection, frankly. I have a lot of guys on the other side that kind of give me some warnings not to be there, and I've made some things. I frankly was considering that in the days ahead. I said, where should I be, guys? They just want me out here and sharing with you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, by the way, remember, before you leave here, we got the special, because some of you have to leave. Make sure you get some of the handbooks to get with your friends, and you can talk to Grant in the back, because he's been here forever. Grant will give you some interesting stories himself. Yes.
You mentioned Sitchin before, and he speaks of the 12th planet, which is also called the red planet. And I remember the scientists saying that they've talked about planet X. They don't want to really talk about it much, but they see with the telescope that there is a planet out there.
The question was about Zechariah Sitchin, and he's discussing the new planet that's coming back out that basically falls in line with the biblical history that we have. Other planet that goes through its cycle, it comes by this thing, and they transmit back over here. The ETs are saying that everything's going to be coming together at this point for all of us, but we got a changing of the guard of the entire planet. They say if we woke up, we could reclaim the planet, because we're basically under control of the ETs. We could reclaim it and demand a place in the universe, so we could be like Star Trek and be at it. But we're so out of balance. I mean, we don't even know what the rules are. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, in following you through tonight, if our country, or when our country is hit by Russian atomic weapons, then what? Do they take over our country?
Well, there are several countries that are vying together right now. Remember, you got Hussein that's being trained over there too. He has 5,000 Russians there with the military. They're having meetings. The Chinese have 13 long-range nuclear missiles at us, and they're the wild card. I mean, you guys ever went to China, you'll understand. I mean, you have no idea what people are until you see 1,200,000,000 of them. All in small, because they have very little land mass that people can live on, and it's unbelievable. I mean, you think Los Angeles is big or Mexico City is bad. China's unbelievable. Anyway, their situation is they're kind of waiting back. They're kind of the sleeping tiger if you look at it. I don't know who's all getting together. I do know the Soviets are together right now, and they're doing both sides against the Middle and the Middle East. And I think the United States, again, the documents that they were expecting that I saw is only going to be 20 million Americans left alive. So and I know that the major cities are all going to be taken out, because the major cities are the ones that contain most of the people on welfare, most of the people that are on some kind of drawing, that are living on government dole. The rule book, and you're not going to like this, if you're over age 44, unless you have a talent that is needed by them, you'll be one of the useless eaters. They want the young worker bees and the productive women and the ones that have been trained in a certain area. That's what they want. In the United States, since we have raped the rest of the world, remember the first law, what you put out you're going to get back? We've done it. Okay. Any more questions? Yes.
When Israel was set up, they felt exactly the same way. They didn't want any old people or really, really young people either. The healthy workers.
The question, well, it was just a statement. The statement was Israel, when set up, it was the same way. Israel was set up also to bring into fruition this thing in a later date. It was the whole situation in after Germany and all of that, what happened to all of them, how they created this